So some of my singletons keep track of active elements to uh, for recall purposes, such as the Centipede factory, keeping track of Centipede heads to activate the next wave, which I demonstrated already. It increments the count based on how many heads have been spawned, and then decrements it when it dies, activating the next wave and stopping the loop. If it's just recalled instead of dying, then I decrement the count and only stop the loop instead of activating the next wave. Um, my spawners also uh, my spawners also keep track of um, the amount of heads on field and pushing it to a stack, and then deleting accordingly, and then this calls the delete on the stack in the destructor and deletes the pointer instance and sets the pointer instance to null pointer. Um, I know one of these spawners, I believe the Scorpion, is a game object because I needed alarms uh, for the Scorpion spawning mechanic, and due to this, my terminate function is empty, but in the destructor I set the instance to null pointer and mark the object for destroy, which clears um, which clears the object. I unfortunately I don't think this kept track of any lists or stacks, so I should be good there. I'll keep moving. Command pattern. Um, my score and sound manager are both done using command pattern. I'll go to those. Score. So I have the base command, which is just execute. Um, and then inside the command score, or in the command score base, I just have a protected points value, which is the points to add. I delete the constructor and create a different constructor that takes in a value and override the execute. And inside here, I just have an add score, which calls the score manager and then adds points accordingly. And this is used inside factories of everything except the spider, basically. And this score by distance takes in a distance value as well as a value and calls the execute function. Yeah, same thing, just takes in the distance. The score manager, this is where each of the commands are stored. The each sorry, I'm really flustered and I'm freaking out about how late it is. This it's a switch case that takes in these enum values and sorry, calls a new command, sets the p command to a new instance of each, and these each only happen one time. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm freaking out. Um, but this add score function gets the instance of the current player data, which is a struct that stores the current player's values, and this only updates the score if the player manager is player 1 instead of the AI, in which case it doesn't update the score. And these process score commands just go through the stack and call the execute function. The score by distance just tracks whether it tracks the ranges of the spider death points and the range at which it causes them. Um, this set high score function just is to keep track of the high score, and it is called in the game controller. Um, I can't think. I'm freaking out so much. So these all these score events are called inside the respective factories. So if I go to the spider, for example, inside the spider factory, I have a pdeath near command and the pdeath far. Sorry, a command pointer, uh, which tracks the values and reports them. Uh, based on this calculation here. So when the spider dies, it calls this report spider death function and takes in the distance to the ship, uh, which then records the correct value. And for sound, it's quite similar. In my sound manager, I have these sounds, and I set the non-looped ones to a specific volume and the correct sound from the load all resources. And when I initialize, I only initialize the two instances of the strategy pattern. And then according in a similar way to the score based on the sound event enum that is received, I create a command with that sound and push it to the stack and then pop it when it's necessary, when it's needed. And then these are just for the loop sounds. And this is to swap the objects based on the mode. And yeah, these just call the the current sound. These call these wow these call the correct muted or unmuted sound based on which one is the current based on which one is currently active. So I believe, yeah, so the unmute sound and the muted sound. So based on which one is, whether it's attractor mode or AI mode, it calls the function accordingly. Finite state machine I went over in the AI, and I also believe I went over it in the Centipede observer pattern. Like I said, I only know for sure that I use it. I only know for sure that I use it in the bullet. I believe I went over these. I'll go through the explosions. I've got the death animation, so I just use the critter explosion, which is created using a factory. When it's initialized, I just call the sound manager. I set the position and set the frame, and I just check if it's the last animation frame, and then I mark for destroy, and then I update. All of my explosions are created using a factory, and I recycle. I'm sorry, I gotta rush through this. What else do I have to cover? The centipede I do not derive. I have a head and I have a head class and a segment class. I was unable to. I did not have time to switch them or to derive them from a base class, and then I did not have time to derive them from a base class, and then and separate everything. The head and body segments are both created using their respective factories. The main control logic for the head does use a finite state machine, which I've shown. I'll show the code for the. Actually, I'll pause the video here and then get into